Good morning, beloveds. I got the shot in my knee. It was uncomfortable, but not painful. It was not fun. She used an ultrasound, so that was interesting. And she hit a little vein, so there was a little bit of blood, but not. So she just held pressure on it for a minute, because I even said I'm a bit of a bleeder. So, but then she put a Band-Aid on it, and I have had no trouble with it since. So I was like, you know what? Okay. And I asked, are there any restrictions? And the only thing she said is basically no water, no pools, no hot tubs, anything like that for 24 hours. And that's it. She said, take it easy today and go back to normal tomorrow. So I'm like, all right. Yeah. So I did go pick up my book from the bookstore and walked twice around. It's a huge bookstore, but like I just walked to one section and walked back and then walked back to another section and then walked back, and then went home, and my partner came home and found me asleep on the couch. So, yeah, that was fun. But what we are doing, so, and I guess it'll take a couple of days to see how, I don't know. It's definitely not like the cortisone shot. It's different. But here we are. Okay, so we are doing Your Spiritual Power, and we are going to start Pray and Prosper today. So let's do the housekeeping really fast, and then we'll get into Pray and Prosper. And all the housekeeping is me reminding you that we are Creative Life Spiritual Center. Website is creativelife.org. Constant contact email, info@creativelife.org. Website. No, I already said website. The email gets you one email a week, tells you what's going on for the week and the month. The hot links are hot. Click here now means it. And it is a blind CC. Nobody's going to see your email. So you won't end up on anybody else's email because of us. And I said one email a week. It's a real person doing it. He doesn't have time for more than that. The only reason you would get more than one is if something unusual happens. We live in hurricane country. That's what I mean. All right. And then the social medias, and I only mention them from the standpoint of we do not monetize the social medias. So what we appreciate, we don't want to deal with the ads any more than you do. So what we ask you to do is like, subscribe, follow based on which platform it is. And then it's allergy season, pardon me. And the ragweed is big and beautiful. So, what we ask, and then engage with the individual posts. So like react, comment, or share. React, comment, and share the individual posts. It bumps us in the algorithms. More people see our stuff. It's a free and easy way that you can support the center. Okay. And we are Creative Life Spiritual Center or Creative Life Spark. And I'm the running Rev Ryan on the social medias that I am on. So there is that. Okay. Your Spiritual Power collection. I like to put it out, a collection of inspirational writings, right? Because it says right there on the cover. But basically, it's some of his rarer works that may not be available anywhere else. And I've never heard of Pray and Prosper. I own a lot of his little bitty books, and I don't think I have this one. So I'm kind of excited about it. Now, the first 10 pages are probably an introduction, and then he does specific little topics, but they're kind of short. So we'll probably cover 2 or 3 of them a day. But I also will not be doing this probably tomorrow because I get to go get my mane tamed. So, we're gonna get about halfway through the introduction, and hopefully I'll see a natural place to stop. Cause I can't do all 10 pages today. And then we will, pick it back up on Sunday. So, unless I get inspired, who knows? I get to go to a different park tomorrow. Kind of excited. My park has squirrels and blue jays, and that park has ducks and red-winged blackbirds. So, and cormorants and some other things. So, all right. So we are starting Pray and Prosper. Let's see what Ernest has to say. What is prayer? We pray either to an infinite mind or to an omnipotent power. Prayer is always some form of communion with the universal. It reaches its highest possibility when it rises above the limitations of any existing circumstance. This is why Jesus told his followers not to judge by appearances. Jesus did not deny the appearances. He merely said, do not accept it as the only criteria. Oh, wow. He merely said, do not accept it as the only criteria. That's really good. How could anyone arrive at such a faith unless he knew that he was dealing with a power which can rearrange facts and create new ones? A belief in the invisible is the very essence of faith. Prayer or spiritual communion demands a complete surrender to the invisible. It knows that because the creative power of God is at hand, all things are possible. A person is powerful because they deal with power. They may become wise because they are immersed in wisdom. Thus, they have an inexhaustible source from which to draw. Whatever our idea of God may be, the perception of reality is always an inner perception. As Moses tells us, the word is not far off, but in our own mouths. And Jesus, that the kingdom of heaven is within. The prayer of power is not so much a petition as it is an inner recognition. Now that is a really important point. We do not have to beg in our prayers. We do not have to plead in our prayers. We do not have to abase ourselves in our prayers. What we are doing when we pray is aligning ourselves with the reality that we want, not the one we may be currently experiencing. Okay? We cannot doubt that the Spirit has already made the gift of life since we live. Ours is the privilege of acceptance. Yep, right there. Acceptance, consciousness, acceptance. Hallmarks of science of mind. Thus, we are to assume the attitude of a grateful beneficiary of the divine gifts. This should be done simply and directly. The Spirit is not something that was or that is going to be or become. The truth is that which is. It exists at the very center of our being. To pray in spirit and in truth means to recognize this indwelling Spirit and to declare the truth about its activity through us. Yep. Like, I can get on board with that sentence. God is not poor, weak, sick, or unhappy. God is not impoverished, limited, or in bondage. It is this Spirit to which we pray, the reality which we approach at the center of our own being. It is the silent partner in every person's life. A wise and loving presence, ever ready to respond to us. Since we neither created this presence nor incarnated it within us, there is nothing we can do but accept it. Jesus said, "Ye must be born again." The second birth is a birth from the appearances to reality. Robert Browning said, "There is an innermost center in all of us where the truth abides in fullness." The purpose of prayer or spiritual communion is to seek conscious union with this indwelling presence. Jesus claimed that the words he spoke were not his own, but were the activity of the Spirit within him. Since there is but one mind, this must be true. It is impossible to lose this imprisoned splendor unless we comply with its nature, which must be truth, harmony, and wholeness. Hate Disunion, fear, and uncertainty may knock at the door of reality, but only peace can enter. This is the peace to which Jesus referred to when he said, "Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, nor let it be afraid." Peace is at the very center of our being. Sometimes we arrive merely at a spiritual unity with spirit. No, hang on. Let me redo that sentence because I put an S where it didn't belong. Okay, peace is at the very center of our being. Sometimes we arrive merely at a partial unity with spirit. At other times, we more completely enter into the contemplation of reality. Always, our prayer will be as effective as the realization generated in the act of communion. Thus, our words become clothed upon with the living presence of an invisible power, ever projecting itself into form through our meditation. I needed to make sure it was meditation, not mediation. He keeps putting things in quotes. Like he said, imprisoned splendor was in quotes, and then clothed upon was in quotes. So he's quoting from somewhere, but I don't know where. Okay, there is a law of mind which follows the pattern of our thought. This law works automatically. It is a mechanical law, not a mathematical one. It is the law of cause and effect. We should not have any anxious thought concerning the operation of this law. It will always respond by corresponding. Thus, Jesus said, "It is done unto us as we believe." The word as is important since it applies, okay, I don't, hang on. The world as, maybe is as important since it applies that the creative intelligence is working for us, must work through us at the level of our acknowledgement of it as working. Okay. This is praying in spirit and in truth and according to law. And there must be law even in prayer if there is to be cosmic order. Okay. I guess I've never considered that before. That's interesting. Spiritual communion is deeper than intellectual perception. Well, yeah. Spiritual communion requires both the head and the heart. You can't do it just intellectually, and it can get kind of messy if you just do it on the emotional level. Both are necessary. Okay, both are necessary. Very, very much so. So, spiritual communion is deeper than intellectual perception. The prayer of the intellect may be perfect in form, but this form must be warmed and colored by feeling and conviction. The Bible refers to the letter and the spirit of the law. It implies that both are necessary. That is, we should not only state our words definitely, but we must believe it sincerely, deeply. Paul tells us to be transformed by the renewing of the mind. We must cast off the intellectual doubt, which affirms that things must continue as they have always been. We must enter into a deep spiritual communion with reality, and that is with a capital R, by the way, realizing that a new creation is taking place through our consciousness. Okay, a new creation is taking place through our consciousness. This judgment may be contrary to appearances, but it is nevertheless a true judgment. Let's see. Humanity's mind has been likened to the workshop of God. He keeps using that, and I'm kind of curious to know where that comes from. Workshop of God. Like he got that from somebody because it's in quotes every time I see it. All right. So humanity's mind has been likened to the workshop of God, for it is here that the tools of thought consciously may fashion destiny, may carve out a new future. We have been told to do this according to the pattern shown us in the mount. This means that we are to formulate our ideas on the preposition that there is an all-sustaining power and an all-pervading presence around us and an immutable law ever serving us when our lives are in harmony with the divine nature. And see that right there, in harmony with the divine nature. Like when we are in harmony with the divine nature, everything is easy. When we are somewhat in harmony, things are probably pretty good. When we are completely out of harmony, that's when the messiness is messy. So, through an exact law, demonstration follows the word of faith. This law is a law of polarity, of reflection, of cause and effect. Okay, now he mentioned polarity. He got that from Thomas Troward. If you want to look into what polarity in prayer is, then I would recommend you look into Thomas Troward. Okay, it is written that I will be to them as they have spoken. Again, be firm and ye shall be made firm. Act as though I am and I will be. This calls for a surrender of the intellect to a spiritual conviction which dares to believe, disregarding any evidence to the contrary. Yeah, okay. We must continue in faith until our whole mental life, both conscious and subjective, responds. If we would pray and prosper, we must believe that Spirit is both willing and able to make the gift. But since the Spirit can only give us what we take, and since the taking is a mental act, we must train the mind to believe and accept. This is the secret of the power of prayer. All right. One need not have great intellectual attainment to understand these simple things. Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is reached through childlike faith. Again, he said, I thank thee, Father, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and the prudent and hast revealed them unto babes. Everything that Jesus said and did was said and done to provide an example for our benefit. His whole life and teaching was to describe the nature of reality. Okay, hang on. Yeah, okay, we can talk about that. Not that I really have a whole lot of time, but one of the things that I really appreciate about Ernest Holmes' take on Jesus is he calls Jesus the great example. Okay? A lot of Christianity has called Jesus the great exception, meaning, yeah, we want to live up to that, but we are always going to fail. Well, Ernest didn't believe that. Ernest absolutely believed, because Jesus himself said, all of these things that I do, you will do and more. Okay? So Jesus said, I am an example. He didn't even call himself the example. He said, I am an example. Follow me, do what I do, and you will, then your life will be good. Okay, great. However, Christianity decided to make him the exception rather than the example. And that's one of the things that I love the most about Ernest is Ernest said, we're going to go back to the example, not the exception. And I think we're better for it. Because a lot of people look at the example and go, well, if he's an exception, I can't live up to it. Why should I try? And Ernest is like, he is an example. You absolutely can live up to it. Let's go. He didn't even say, let's try. He said, let's go. All right. Let's see. All of his works, which have been miscalled miracles, were to prove that his teaching was correct. He asked those around him whether it was easier to announce a philosophy or to prove it. They had been arguing about his spiritual authority, and he asked them whether it was easier to say, thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, arise and walk. and that they might know that the Son of Man hath power on earth to forgive sins. He said to the man with palsy, Arise and take up thy bed and go into thine house. Just as the teachings of Jesus announce the divine presence, so his works prove the presence of a law which receives the impress of his word and brought it forth into form. He asked no authority other than that which was demonstrated through his act. Since Jesus taught the most definite system of spiritual thought ever given to the world, as well as the most simple and direct, and since he was able to prove his teaching by his works, we could do no better than to follow his example. There are two ways which we may do this. One is blind faith, and we cannot doubt its effectiveness. The other is through coming to understand what the teachings of Jesus really meant. Thus, knowledge passes into faith, so complete it is unshakable. And we're going to stop right there. We are going to stop right there. And that's one of those things that Ernest is going, look, blind faith works. But if you understand what you have faith in, your faith cannot be shaken. So, like I said, I think that's where we're going to stop. So we're going to pick up with the paragraph, the second paragraph on 155, probably on Sunday. I don't think I'll do it tomorrow just because I'm going to be out and about in the morning. And, so I'm taking a break tomorrow. I'm going to go get my mane trimmed and run a couple of errands and just take the day off. It happens occasionally. But I hope you're really enjoying. I'm really enjoying this already. I've thoroughly enjoyed reading more and more of Ernest's work, and I'm glad that I'm doing it this way. I hope you're getting as much out of it as I am. So I am now going to encourage you to have a great day, a wondrous day, a fantastic day, a magical day, an enchanted day, a wonderful day, an awesome day, an amazing day, a take care of business day, a let's wrap this week up day, a healing day, a hold a good thought for somebody day. This is called an unspoken prayer request. I've got a friend who is having surgery today. It's possible it has already had the surgery, to have a hip replaced. So let's know a good thing for that. And the good news is that prayer works. Prayer's not bound by time. So even if you're seeing this well after the surgery, you can still know a good thought for the friend having the hip surgery. So that day. So it's a pray for somebody else day. And know a good thought for yourself day. A cuddle your fur babies day, a drink plenty of water day, a beware of the allergies day, a enjoy the cooler morning day. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it is in the mid 60s this morning. A you got this day, a good day, and if that is too much pressure, simply have a day. You are enough just as you are. You are a beloved expression of the divine. You are spirit in motion, God in action, a brilliant light and a divine spark, a beautiful masterpiece, and a work in progress at the same time at your own pace. And as Reverend Jesse likes to call us, you are a godling. All right, beloveds, I'm going to move on into the process of my day. But I'm going to encourage you to to explore the truth of your being. Get to know who the divine knows you to be, because the divine knows you to be good. And from there, anything is possible. And I do mean anything is possible. All right, beloveds, as I said, moving on into the process of my day, Reverend David will be on around 5 p.m. with you. I'm taking tomorrow off, so I will see you around 8:45 on Sunday, because Sunday is gym day. All right, beloveds, take care of yourself. Know that you are loved, and I will see you next time.